game reviewers ate my son. Look. He's gone. Video game reviews. The thing that generates the most anger per gamer since the invention of video games. And then women, and then black people, and then gay people, and then... So Space Marine 2 came out recently, and it looks real fun, and real pretty, and real cool, and I want to play it, but I'm still really busy throwing Steve out of Windows. Seriously, play Tactical Breach Wizards. That shit is amazing. I would also like to offer a sincere apology to my many viewers for my last video. I didn't put in nearly enough feet, which is why I'm extremely pleased to announce that we have developed new technology here on Crimes New Roman for the constant feet cam, in which throughout the entirety of this video, in the bottom corner will be a continual stream of the grippers. Anyways, as I was saying, Space Marine 2 came out recently and it looks really, really cool. The first one was the most like video game, you know? It was really fun and I'm really excited to play the sequel because it just seems like a grander version of the first one and adds some fun, goofy things like multiplayer and co-op so you can fulfill the ultimate male fantasy with you and some friends, which is having stable employment. The first game was hardly a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a really fantastic time. And I am glad to see that overall, it's been really well received, except for one review. And people are not happy. PC Gamer gave Space Marine 2 a 60 out of 100. What's up with that? People are saying that this review sucks for a lot of reasons, like a lot of reasons, but I don't see anybody who appears to be pointing out the one single issue in this review that makes it flawed. Nary a person is offering the true explanation. They're too busy imagining some grand conspiracy around why a game could possibly be rated poorly, when they are the lamest kind of conspiracy to be conspiracizing on. Because the real issue here is this little piece of shit. This thing, this monstrosity made of numbers, made of pros and cons and summaries is truly a user's and a gamer's worst nightmare. See, this summary and numerical value meant to offer a tight representation of some dude's opinion online in regards to how they felt playing a game, I think is one of the worst inventions of all time and responsible for generating so much gamer rage. It could only be rivaled in anger per gamer, or APG, by the concept of women existing. While obviously, this little end cap, this little summary is meant to offer a quick, intuitive way of engaging with a review. Unfortunately, due to how people are, it completely sabotages engaging with the review process. It is completely counterintuitive to having people engage with the concept that a review is simply a person talking about their own subjective experience with a thing that can inform people about that thing. And sure, I know what people are gonna say, something, TikTok, attention economy, like, yeah, I know. People don't got time to read or whatever. But anybody who spends 2 seconds thinking about the sheer diversity of experiences within a medium, and even the sub-experiences within those experiences, will realize that trying to condense down these insane complexities that differ intensely from subject to subject into one number is completely ridiculous. The summary and pros and cons that people sometimes add to are also highly prone to be taken out of context. And I think this is no better illustrated than the infamous IGN too much water incident of 2014. 2014 was 10 years ago. That's fucked up, man. In IGN's Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Omega movie review, one of the things that the reviewer listed as being a con was too much water. The internet exploded. However, to anybody who actually read the review or played the game, and this was a remake of a 12-year-old game, by the way, understands that the immensely skewered balance of the game towards water types made it incredibly unfun to play. It took a lot of the wind out of the sails of build crafting because basically all you needed was one electric Pokemon to carry you through the endless gauntlet of people with water types. They had every chance to correct the balance of this 12-year-old game that they painstakingly remade, yet they neglected to, further reinforcing the flaws of that game that have been well known for over a decade. But a lot of people didn't be reading. See, the invention of the number scale, or the summary / pros and cons, should mean in an ideal world the people don't really pay that much attention to it and instead read the full review, because the issues of one 6 out of 10 game are obviously not going to be comparable in basically any way to another 6 out of 10 game. Even though some people love to try to equate that. And that's not even counting the fact that probably the two people reviewing those separate 6 out of 10 games aren't even the same person, therefore completely widening the gap of what that 6 out of 10 could mean for the individual. But of course, we don't live in an ideal world where there's catboys for everybody and people read video game reviews before reacting to them. Something, goldfish attention span, TikTok brain rot. Yeah, whatever. And it's so easy to tell a lot of the times that a lot of people just like don't even bother to read the review because the insane amount of cope that they just ooze typing angrily online. People will make attacks on the reviewer, people will make attacks on the outlet, people will make attacks at game journalism on the whole. So much coping over some guy not giving a thing that they liked a better number. But what's extra annoying is when a lot of people do kind of seem to read the review, but they didn't get the score it wanted. So therefore, they just do this shit anyways.
And I'm finding that the news media, the general like gaming news media, is just shitting on the game, which makes no sense to me. And it's something I've seen for a while. I don't like games journalism. As a game developer, as a game player, I think games journalism is in the trashiest state I've ever seen it. I think it's worthless 99% of the time. Like if you look at the way that this went down, Space Marine 2 got a 60 out of 100 from PC Gamer. Golem got 63 out of 100.
I know there is a perverse incentive in PC game, game journalism to begin with. I've heard this talked about where to be able to get early access, to be able to get these positive things, a lot of these reviewers have to position things in certain ways to even be able to get this, or they'll get kicked out, they'll lose their ability. So I already know that there's a lot of some games, some studios, some games won't let people in unless they do positive things. So that could contribute to a game in which is universally hated getting a better review, because or else if they don't play ball with this one, they're not going to get the next opportunity.
I think the thing that's really interesting about this is it's leading to a scenario where the general public doesn't trust games journalism at all. So there's no benefit that's coming from it. And I'm surprised that game developers keep giving advanced copies to these companies because it's not bringing them value. It's these companies just shitting on the game, like completely. And it's not even swaying players. Even if the game gets reviewed super highly, people just go, well, IGN just gives everything 9 out of 10 anyway. Who gives a shit? I'm going to go look at the reviews on Steam. So like there's no real value happening here. And I think it's because they've led themselves into this weird corner where they have not enough time to review a game genuinely. They have not enough skill to review the game genuinely. And because of that, they don't have a good take on the game.
At the time of recording, this clip has almost 900,000 views in like under a week. And the comments are absolutely filled with people echoing this opinion. It's kind of hard to believe that a channel with over 2 million followers is pushing a narrative that's just so detached from reality, particularly when like a lot of their other clips are like very level-headed. Like they had a fantastic take on Concord. So it feels like this score on Warhammer is almost personal. Like it's almost like this guy had his son eaten by game journalists too. Also, Capri Sun, hit me up for a fucking sponsorship. Please, I beg you. I would do anything to be sponsored by you. There is everything in this clip, dude. Everything that I was talking about here. We got the bashing on mainstream game journalism. We got the trying to falsely equate the numerical summaries between two different games with two different reviewers. We got assuming reviewers were paid or incentivized to review a game a certain way. They don't know what they're talking about, that they are untrustworthy, that they got no gamer skill. What I'm particularly shocked to hear is that these people even go so far as to say that they wonder why game companies give reviewers codes in the first place. Particularly since this guy says he's a game developer. Like, I'm legitimately shocked that that's even a question, because for so many people, so many average Joes, being able to go to a general conglomerate of news on a specific topic that you're interested in and filter out all of the noise in the hellscape that is social media to find perceivedly trustworthy, relatively informed opinions or previews on things you might be interested in. That's just marketing, baby. Straight up. So many people find so many games through that shit. I've found so many games through that shit. Like, half the things I've played, I probably wouldn't have even found if it weren't for going to websites like IGN or Kotaku or Polygon and seeing people talk about them. Okay, first conspiratorial thing that I need to talk about here is the claim that the general gaming news media, whatever he means by that, is shitting on the game. I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about, because essentially everywhere I have seen, this game is getting really positive coverage. I even went so far as to check the VOD to find more context to this. I found nothing. This feels like borderline fantasy, unless I'm somehow missing some mainstream gaming news media. I mean, shit, even the gamer sphere on YouTube love this game. Like, I'm not seeing anything here. Please, Pirate Software, if you somehow watch this video, please tell me, where is the general gaming news media that you're talking about? Are the general gaming news media in the room with us right now? Secondly, being displeased with one review to the point of shitting on the entirety of general gaming news media and assuming that there must be some grand scheme at play is one of my personal favorite copes that I see online, and completely absurd. You see various flavors of this conspiracy around, from game reviewers being paid to give certain scores or game reviewers being just straight up dog shit. These things bounce around, and honestly, these things can have legitimately severe consequences. They can be so damaging and get gamers so riled up at these absurd concepts that even when some reviewer or person in the industry posts a humorous clip of them being bad at a genre that they never really engage with, gamers explode. I'm sure many people remember the infamous Cuphead guy who struggled to get past the tutorial. That was Dean Takahashi, a veteran of the games industry with an over 25-year-long career, who posts a lot about technology. And he was at a game show, recorded some footage of him trying out Cuphead, a genre he never really plays, and uploaded it online thinking it would be really funny. But gamers didn't think it was funny. Gamers exploded and did a racism and brought in a sexism because they love comparing bad things to women for some reason, and just kind of in general made this guy's life an absolute fucking nightmare over something that was supposed to be kind of funny. Some people just don't take to certain kinds of games, so of course they're probably not going to be reviewing them. I mean, I've beaten literally every single Souls game multiple times, but don't fucking ask me to play any platformer or I will look like a child, okay? These conspiracies with real consequences are continually thrown out by people who get a little angry over a number. A number that doesn't really mean anything. I think it's pretty fair to say that PC Gamer Guy actually does know what he's doing, since he played through the entire game in all of the modes. Maybe the core design choices of the game were not something that he could easily mesh with as opposed to other people. Maybe that's just like his opinion. that also a lot of the other positive reviews talk about in some way. And that brings me to my third point, which is if people actually read reviews and understood the subjectivity of the opinion that is going into them, we'd all be a lot happier. They'd see them less as an object expression of fact that somehow makes these people reading it feel personally attacked, as opposed to some guy's relative opinion in a sea of relative opinions designed to inform you, the buyer, on whether or not it feels like this product will appeal to your particular sensibilities. It just so happened that PC Gamer Guy had some legitimate issues. Repetitive gameplay made somewhat frustrating by the continual melee execution mechanic. Long-range combat feeling less useful than it could be because of the aforementioned execution mechanic to stay alive. Inconsistent parries. The AI squad being dog shit. Reasonably bland level design, particularly in a lot of the co-op missions. And also maybe a little less content than there could be around those missions since they aren't that fun to play. A lot of people seem to think the big roadmap counts for something, and it kind of does, but ultimately you're paying for game content right now. You're not paying for game content in the future. And that's why me personally, I haven't gotten the game yet because I want to wait for more content to come out. And I'm still defenestrating Steve. And to me personally, like, this sounds exactly like Space Marine 1. And I totally get why some people bounced off it, because it's such a video game that you just kind of turn your brain off and have fun for a while. It's very shallow, but it's fun. And it's completely understandable how some people can find that not fun. It's far from high art, but I think the idea that you can't criticize something because it's meant to be a unga bunga kill game, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, because action and games can be amazing in every arena. You don't have to leave the story behind. You don't have to have kind of bland level design. You can do it all. I love you so much, Titanfall 2. Mwah. I also do want to provide clarification that while every review is largely just some guy's feelings, some of those feelings can be more justified and more well articulated than others. PC Gamer Guy does a really good job providing examples and justifying why he feels the way he feels about these particular problems. And I think that's nice. That's great. I understand him. I can see where he's coming from. We're vibing. Every reviewer worth their salt can actually do this. And you can always tell the difference between a review of somebody who does this and cares about providing a fair, objectively balanced review, as opposed to essentially like reactionary opinions. There's nuance and care put into reviews from people who legitimately understand and love the medium and want to provide fair, reasonable critique to creators to create better. They're aware of their own biases, their expertise, and their preferences, and are able to frame a review and their analysis of a piece of media, a piece of art, with all of that in mind, while still being able to communicate to the viewer, to you and I, what that experience would be like. Because if they didn't, every review would just be pointless, reactionary garbage. Star Wars Outlaws, a game I could not care less about, came out a couple months ago. And just listen to clips from these 2 YouTube reviews on the story and tell me which one you think is the better reviewer.
The writing too is almost terminally wounded by Ubisoft's uncompromising focus on structure over storytelling. The first 2/3 of this game, it honestly feels like there's almost no storyline at all, since the non-linear structure doesn't allow plot events and character interactions to be built sequentially. It only comes together in the final third, when the game starts being a linear experience, and at that point, it's fantastic.
Overall, it is a complete and total joke. You can tell they threw this shit together in probably the span of a few months, and you can definitely tell that a woman wrote this shit, because not only is the dialogue insufferably cringe, but almost every single major character without fail is a boss bitch. In fact, about 70% of the stormtroopers you'll encounter are women, because that's definitely something that was extremely prominent in all of the Star Wars movies, is female stormtroopers. But yeah, you could just tell this is woke as shit. Like, all the characters are super diverse. The only white men.
Now, If you think I'm cherry picking, please go watch them both, come back in an hour and a half, and type out a nice lengthy apology. The first review was from SkillUp, and it's very obvious why his channel has grown so much, why he has become quite well regarded in the industry, because the context and nuance that he wants to give in regards to reviewing everything is just so lovely. Meanwhile, over on the other side of the aisle, we have angry reactionary channels like Old Griffin over there who really only care about catering to a specific angry misogynistic audience. Obviously, this isn't all small reviewers, but let's be honest, we've all seen the gamer sphere. We know what's going on over there. Objectivity is only a thing in their imaginations. The reason why PC Gamer Guy is good at what he does, why magazines hire people like him, and why people like SkillUp have become so well regarded in the industry is because they know what they are doing and know how to write a rationalized review regardless of how playing the game affected them. Sorry, I'm just finishing lunch, don't mind me. PC Gamer Guy was allowed to write that review because he's good at this. SkillUp got popular because he's good at this. They give nuanced, balanced takes on a game from their own perspective, as opposed to someone who, I don't know, would make a story review section of the video that's literally just summarizing the entire story, spoilers and all, for 10 minutes, and then essentially saying it's obviously wrote by women as some sort of moral signifier to indicate that it's bad. This is one of the major differences between major publications and smaller YouTube reviews. Like, there is a level of quality control. A lot of people who just kind of make reviews online are fine, whether they are politically charged or not. A lot of YouTube reviewers are really not that great at making objective reviews and really make it more content, misogynistic tendencies aside. And make no mistake, I'm not implying that you have to be employed by a big publisher or have a big channel in order to be a good reviewer. I mean, shit, I only got like 400 subs or whatever, and I'm the best. But as I said before, there's a certain indicator of quality that you've been vetted to ensure that you will provide a pretty fair and balanced review on a thing that you are reviewing if you are affiliated with some kind of major organization or you've developed a very, very strong reputation. Again, average people are lazy. They just want to find that nice conglomerate that they can go to, the couple people they trust, baba booey. Not everybody there is obviously the best. I mean, my favorite YouTube movie reviewer is this lady with 70,000 subs who just like sits on her floor but gives outstanding reviews and analysis of films. She's fantastic. Deep focus lens, highly recommend. That's another thing that really bothers me about this whole number summary system is it really disincentivizes people to develop a healthy parasocial relationship, if you will, with a particular reviewer or person that you can reliably go to kind of cut through all the noise. Not because you necessarily agree with all of what this person is saying, even though probably your taste will overlap, but they are reliable, they are consistent, and you can understand if you will like something based off of how they describe it, even if they don't. No reviewer will perfectly match your preferences, but having one that's real close is very nice. Particularly if you want to avoid reading the brain rot that is general community comments on almost any piece of media. And while it is a double-edged sword, it is really cool that like basically anybody can just kind of start reviewing things and then get pretty good at it and like develop a following. And like that's just neat. That's the power of the internet. Of course, they can also not improve and just settle into a echo chamber of making money from racist, misogynistic grifters, but you know, different strokes for different folks. At the end of the day, a review is largely just some dude's opinion, and it's up to you, the reader, to determine if that opinion has value to you. If it's well thought out, if it is useful, whether you agree with it is completely irrelevant. But to understand what the reviewer is saying and where they're coming from, that is what's important. I know I'm gonna like Space Marine 2. I'm gonna have a fun little time, and I'm probably going to have the exact same opinion on it as I had the first one, which is it's probably like fine, but it's like a really fun fine, you know? And for your own mental health, if you ever see a review that you disagree with, be it positive or negative, and you think anything other than, I guess, please rethink your thought processes, because being angry to the point of conspiracy around video game reviews? Bro, what are you doing? What's happening? What's going on over there? Games journalism is not beholden to some shadow power that is influencing reviews like a great puppet master, okay? It's just a bunch of dudes who really like video games, who probably have played more than the average person because it's their job to play games on the fucking clock, which a lot of us work really hard to hide from our employers. If anyone from my job happens to see this, that's a joke. I don't do that for surezies. And outside of just video game reviews, there's some legitimately just excellent games journalism out there. Like most recently, I read an article about criticizing the Plucky Squire for it being a little too handholdy, and I thought it was really well written. Jason Schreier is always cooking on his sick investigative reporting into these big dog shit companies that we all love to hate. Gamers really don't like Kotaku, but they have, in my opinion, some of the best articles covering more nuanced topics, particularly around things that might be related to us LGBT folk, that I think are really good. I mean, I don't know anybody in their right mind who would assume that non-mainstream stuff is any better than mainstream game stuff. I mean, if you spend like 10 seconds in a lot of the non-mainstream game places, like, you'll kind of see some immediate red flags. Like I see this website, That Park Place or whatever it is, like the first half of this article is just a pretty normal breakdown of Ubisoft stock tanking after the release of Star Wars Outlaws with some like, you know, quotes from random people at the company or whatever. And then at the very end, with literally no warning at all, they just immediately jump in to this like anti-woke quote, contributing wokeness to the reason why the stock fell because of all the woke in the game. And this is just from some like random YouTube guy, like completely unaffiliated with Ubisoft, completely unaffiliated with the stock market. This is just some random pull quote from some random loser on YouTube who is somehow meant to give authenticity to the big narrative that they're trying to spin, that like them making the character not as hot as she could be is part of the reason why the game made the big company's stock fall. It's completely insane. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna stick with Skill Up. I'm gonna keep reading Kotaku and Polygon and IGN. I'm gonna keep doing my thing, okay? I'm not gonna engage in any conspiracies outside of like the obvious real ones about the sea not being real. Just have fun, realize people have their opinions, and sometimes I have different ones. And that's fine, because I know that objectively, I'm correct. For all the feet lovers out there, I hope that you received a sufficient amount of gripper in this video. And I will make sure to stay good on my promise in all future videos until the day that these boys are in the ground. And even then, I want to be buried with my feet just sticking out the grave, you know, so people can just keep enjoying them for as long as possible. Because that's what life's about. Read the fucking reviews.